What's up everyone? Sony did us a huge favor flying us out to New York. I've never been here before, so we're gonna check out some sites, but first I gotta go inside to check out the cool new TVs they've got. We're gonna start with the cream of the crop, the A95L. This is a huge upgrade from last year's A95K that you might remember. We upgraded Linus's home personal TV. It took a lot of soul searching, but we finally got there. We settled on Sony because, what can I say? Their processor is just kind of the best. So when you take something like QD-OLED coming from Samsung Display, and then you get Sony to absolutely enhance everything in it, from the physical aspects like the stand and the actual box and everything, to the picture itself, it's just going to delight you. I can't explain it any better than that. The biggest improvement with this generation is easily the brightness increase. So if, 1,000 nits wasn't enough for you before, they're talking about 200% increase. So we're gonna see something like 2,000 nits coming out of these displays, which when you've got inky blacks of OLED, and then you've got these perfect, every pixel is a dimming zone, just absolute explosions of brightness, it looks incredible. And I know that you're looking at this through your monitor and you're gonna say, whatever, but when you're in person and you can see it, oh my God, does it ever look absolutely stunning. One of the other bigger improvements, aside from the brightness, is actually they've changed out the stand completely. Before, if you remember the N95K video, it's a bar that kind of sits flat across either the front or the back, depending on how you want to orient it. But now they've changed it to a more traditional, like double leg system that you're probably a lot more familiar with, that's on most TVs. And the best part is you can actually do this in 3 different orientations. There's this way that we've got here, and then you can go higher up so that you can fit a soundbar underneath. And then on the larger TV, on the 77-inch, you're gonna have the option to do a much narrower leg placement so that you're not kind of screwed if you don't have a giant console like this. You've just got a little end table that your old 44-inch or your 45-inch fit on just fine, but not anymore. You're doing the big upgrade now.
Check the weight though.
Yeah, check the weights. Yeah, that's a good point. As for I/O, it's mostly the same. We've got our center speaker in and out here. We've got some USB-A, built-in mic switch, digital optical, center speaker in, HDMI, 1, 2, 3, 4 ports, with the bottom 2 being labeled as 4K 120 with eARC on HDMI 3. And then we've also got a LAN and remote and a cable antenna if you really want to use your cable antenna in 2023. The 2 4K 120 ports are HDMI 2.1 spec, so you are going to get variable refresh rate on both of those. And then HDMI 3 specifically has your eARC. So if you've got a sound system that you want to hook into, have everything return on a single channel, you can do that. And then if you do need to hook up even more devices, 1 and 2 are going to only be 2.0B, which is still pretty decent, but you're probably not going to get VRR. That's going to be enough for just about anyone, honestly. You've also got pretty nice cable management clip on the bottom here, so you should be able to route everything through the bottom and out the back of the TV, so you're not really going to see it. Just like the stand actually curves inward, so you really don't even notice it aside from when you're looking straight on and you see this front leg here. One of the other smaller improvements is to the audio this time around. They've got 2.2 actuators to vibrate the entire screen, which is similar to their last TV. Unfortunately, we can't listen to it today. There's no audio testing, but based on previous experience, I'm sure it's going to be at least pretty good. That's the A95L from Sony. It's the one I really came here to see, their flagship. It's an absolute beast of a display, especially when you've got that quantum dot OLED getting 200% brighter, and then you've got better speakers. It is a little thinner, 9mm, but you know what? It's also got an improved stand. You can do multiple modes. It's amazing, but it's still a little pricey. And if it's out of your price range, we have a couple other TVs to show you, but not before a word from our sponsor.
Whoa, surprise Riley, here to say thanks to Volta for sponsoring this video. Are you haunted by visions of tangled cables and clutter? Well, you're in luck. Volta's Anchor is your one-stop shop for charging all of your devices simultaneously. It helps you keep your desk tidy by combining all your charging needs into one. Anchor's 3-in-1 charging allows you to charge your phone, earbuds, and your Apple Watch at the same time. It supports up to 15 watts of fast charging, and its mag ring allows you to use it as a stand while you charge your device. Head in the link down below to check out the Volta Anchor and use code SC30 to get 30% off today.
The X95 Mini-LED. Oh my God. We were actually shown the X83 upstairs, and we didn't get a chance to see the X85 until now. The X83 is kind of the successor to last year, and the X85 is going to be the next step up, but it's only available in 85 inches. That's enormous, probably too big for a lot of people. So if you do want to save a bit of money, you can stick with the X93, which should come in a few other sizes. It's Mini-LED, which looks fantastic, and it does have some improvements over OLED that some people prefer. You tend to get brighter images. There's really no risk of image retention, and honestly, it still looks really good. Even the blacks, while they're not quite as inky as you're gonna get on an OLED panel, this thing still gets really dark. Now, last year's model was really good, don't get me wrong, but this year you're gonna get up to 30% brighter and up to 20% more dimming zones. So you're not gonna get nearly as much bloom, even though there honestly wasn't that much in the last model to begin with. It's just getting tighter and tighter and tighter with those local dimming zones, so that, you know, you've got a star up here, you're gonna get mostly just the star that's actually peaking instead of like a little bit of blooming or haloing around it. We've got pretty similar I/O to the last TV. Built-in mic switch though is a little different instead of our speaker wire. And then we've still got two USB-A, optical, video in for center speaker, 4 HDMI ports, with 3 and 4 specifically being 4K 120, 3 having eARC on it if you want to do any audio return channel stuff. And then we've got our LAN port, we've got remote ports and cable antenna. And we've got the same wraparound stand to keep everything kind of sleek and stylish. Keep your cables tucked away. And while we're down here, we got to talk about the audio, because we're not using down-firing speakers like you're going to find in a lot of other TVs. Got actuators up here, and it should sound super good. They've got a slight improvement over last year's model, and I can't wait to check it out. Obviously, if you're gonna want a ton of bass, you're still gonna want a subwoofer, but these speakers sound really, really good. Now, it's an 85-inch TV. You're gonna get better sound out of a bigger display most of the time, but I was really impressed, frankly. And while you don't need a soundbar or an external sound system, when you're spending this much money on a TV, you do kind of want that. It's just gonna elevate what's already a really, really good experience. Mini-LED has really come a long way, and it's only gonna keep going. But it's still kind of pricey, especially when you've got a panel this size. So if you want something a little cheaper and maybe a little smaller, you can get the X90L. This is their LED TV, full array local dimming. Now, I have been a bit against LED for the most part, just because we're getting so much more when it comes to newer display technologies like OLED and Mini-LED. However, I know that those are still very expensive. And the reality is, when you're adding up to 60% more dimming zones, LED can still look really good. Frankly, I was super impressed when they showed us the demos upstairs. They had their old model, they had a competitor's model, and then they had this guy, and it just crushed it. Now, don't get me wrong, you're still gonna get some bloom, you're gonna get haloing and stuff, but it's really just a phenomenal experience. And it's something that a lot of people don't even realize they want or need until they start watching HDR content that actively uses all of these dimming zones to give you those like big flashes of peak brightness and whatnot. And then to really utilize all those dimming zones and give you that good HDR experience, they're boasting up to 30% more peak brightness, which is just phenomenal. Like LED was already getting bright enough, but to really kind of keep up with Mini-LED, and now even OLED is starting to get bright, they've really bumped it up and juiced it, and it looks just phenomenal. The last really huge improvement that I want to talk about is XR clear image being implemented in this display. Now, a lot of you probably aren't even going to care that much, but the reality is it's actually really, really impressive. They're taking old 1080p or 2K content and then upscaling and upresing to 4K, and they're doing a really good job of it, honestly. There's way less film grain, everything just looks a bit sharper. They showed us last year's model, this year's model, and a competitor upstairs, and this was just, boom, easily the winner when it comes to watching older content on a newer display. It's also able to detect if you've got an external device like a Blu-ray player already upscaling the image. For I/O, it's again pretty similar to the last couple of displays. The only difference is we don't have either a speaker wire at the top or a mic switch, but we do get 2 USB ports and an optical port. We've got video in for S-center speaker in, and then 4 HDMI ports, the bottom 2 of which are both going to be 4K 120, with 3 being eARC. And then finally, we've got our Ethernet, remote ports, as well as cable. As for physical differences, this guy is 14 millimeters thinner, which isn't much, but you know, it all adds up. And it doesn't have quite the same wraparound stand as the other ones, However, it does have at least two positions, so you can do it high like this if you want to have a sound bar out front, or you can go lower if you want this thing to be basically flush with your center console. And you know, I forgot to mention this with the other TVs, but if you want to put this thing above your fireplace, you can mount it to the wall. They've all got mounts on the back here. There are a couple of downfiring speakers on this guy. However, you've also got tweeters at the very top, which is going to help really just make a wider soundstage and everything is going to sound a bit more clear. It's not perfect, and it's not quite as good as we saw on the Mini-LED or on the OLED. However, last year's model was going for about $1,000. So there's no confirmation on pricing or release dates or anything like that. But you know, you can expect something in that ballpark. And what that means is you can then spend more money on a sound system, like a new sound bar, if you just want better dialogue clarity for your movies or TV shows, or a full surround experience if you really want to get engaged in the movies or video games or whatever content you're enjoying. Now, we've mentioned all the 4K 120 ports on these TVs, and with that comes their new game menu, which is going to give you variable refresh rate, motion blur reduction, black equalizer, crosshair type, which is not something that I use personally, but it is a feature on monitors that's been a mainstay for a decade, longer than that, and it hasn't really shown up on TVs too much. So for the people that use it, it's going to be there, it's going to be handy. Another feature that isn't on this TV specifically right now, but it will be available in the future at launch, is the ability to change the screen size so that you can shrink this down to 27 inches if you want to try to play on something that's more competitive. Maybe you don't want to like crank your head all the way around, you're sitting really close, you got to look up at the map. You don't have to do that anymore. So you can change it to whatever size fits your comfort level depending on the content that you're enjoying. One minor feature update is they've got all their eco stuff into a single dashboard now, and you can change it on the fly. And look at this tree. Don't you like making trees get bigger? Another really cool feature that's coming to this guy that we've already seen on their monitors, like the Ins on M9, is auto genre picture switching. So say you're on your PS5, you're playing games, great, you want all the game stuff turned on, boom, now you want to watch some video content on your PS5, it's going to turn all that stuff off, turn on the other stuff like movie mode and different picture stuff, and it's just going to work automatically. That's it for the X90L. It's a big improvement in a number of ways, more zones, more brightness, up to 98 inches, so you can get a huge bad boy, one of these guys. We've got the 75-inch right here, which feels small compared to an 85-inch, but it's actually quite huge. Overall, everything is really impressive. We saw improvements across the entire stack, from their LED, full array local dimming stuff, to Mini-LED, all the way up into QD-OLED. And I gotta say, that QD-OLED, it's gonna be pricey. The last one was like $4 or $5 grand, so expect something similar. But frankly, if you can afford it, especially now with all the improvements that have come out in the last year, you're not gonna be disappointed. I'll tell you that much. Honestly, all of them, even that $1,000 LED with the full array local dimming, I've been telling people for a little while now to just avoid LED in general, but frankly, it wasn't bad, especially at the price point. You're getting a lot of TV for about $1,000. Thanks for watching. That's a Sony event. We're gonna see all these later. Check out LTT, check out ShortCircuit. I'm gonna eat some pizza. We're good.